money's been printed like crazy, so let's put it into Bitcoin.
So William, thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
It's a pleasure.
I really appreciate you coming out. Look, the reason why I wanted to have this chat is that I feel like there is a movement happening, that's a movement that not a lot of people are aware of, the blockchain and crypto movement. And to a certain degree, I feel like it will eat the world. People are not understanding or not comprehending where this will be going. Just wanted to see what's your perspective on this, and what are your current projects in this direction.
Well, what we're seeing today is a huge fundamental change in money now, because as probably you've seen with the COVID hitting around the world, you've got inflation starting and everything. Governments are just pumping money in helicopter form. Values going up, so people are looking to hedge in other areas which are more stable. So you've seen, obviously last year, you've seen gold and silver prices rise a considerable amount. They're coming off, and cryptocurrency is starting to fill that void as well, where people are putting in hundreds of millions of dollars into it. And the area is only going to keep on growing as we become more and more digital in the age that we live in.
Yeah, definitely. I heard the number. I'm not sure if the numbers are accurate, if I have an accurate recollection, saying that since 1776 there have been printed 7 trillion American dollars, out of which 2 trillion were in 2020, and they're about to print another 2 trillion in 2021. So from 8 trillion, 4 of them being printed in 2020 and 2021. I feel like this is a cancer that people are not understanding what the impact will have, what impact it will have.
Well, you've got the issue today with most economies is that back in the 60s we had the gold standard most of the world, so a country could only print as much money as they had for gold. Now they can print as much as they want, so you're, as you said, you're just getting trillions and trillions of dollars of cash coming from nowhere.
Yeah, definitely, made out of thin air. Just imagine if in 2 years our population will double on the globe, or if something like this massive to double. I feel like we are not understanding what impacts and repercussions this will have.
Yep.
So what's money in your opinion? Is it a belief system? Is it an input in a database? What's fundamentally money in your perspective?
Money is just a belief. I believe it's a belief system, and also it's a way to exchange your services or goods or whatever. Because as you go back through history, they used to pay. They used to just pay for used chickens or cattle or whatever. They still do in some parts of the world. 2 cattle will get you a house. So it's just a method of trust and value added on it.
Yeah, definitely. So why do you fundamentally feel like blockchain as a technology and maybe crypto as a use case is a better way of exchanging value and storing value, in your opinion?
Well, you first have to look at that there's a key difference between blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies are used to store value in that. Blockchain is a way for the ledger to be to understand where the crypto is being moved around, and also blockchain can be used to hold, store data and transfer. So it's been used a lot in financial transactions between bank to bank now, and also a lot of logistic companies who obviously, as you look at shipping and all that, they want to follow the product where it's gone, and blockchain can follow it all. Then you're starting to get companies and that now starting to play around as the technology evolves with smart contracts, which allows, once certain implementations happen on the blockchain, a smart contract could turn a fridge on logistics, saying now we've moved off the ship on the back of the truck. Is the produce still fresh? Should the temperatures be changed and that? So there is a difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Now you really made me curious. The fact that blockchain sort of gives you this level of trust that things can't really be altered. What parallels do you see between the blockchain technology and time?
good question. I think it all, with time-wise, it speeds up a lot of the archaic processes that we have. So a good example, and you hear a lot of people that are fundamentally they talk about, is you look at bank transactions. With blockchain, you can receive your money within seconds. With the old sort of system, you know, like it might take 2 business days, they tell you have to get it in at the right time during the bank and that, then they sit on it for a bit. So blockchain, in what you're saying, a good example is it speeds up that process, so the money can be sent to you instantaneously. It's cheaper to send, especially if it's overseas. Like a good case example was Ripple. 2 years ago, they sent from, I think, somewhere into America to the UK, something like $100 million. You expect in the old system that would cost them a couple $1 million to send it. Through the Ripple network, it cost $1.80.
Wow.
So those are the benefits that you see on time, and also it probably helps speed up processes if you're looking at logistics as well, because obviously they're not as losing much product and all this other sort of stuff.
So, can you tell us a bit more about what projects do you currently have or you're working on that are sort of leveraging the blockchain technology?
I've worked with a few logistics companies. So they were originally obviously trying to build out and improve freight, so the companies can keep better records of where their containers are sitting around the world and on ships, and where a more exact option of where it's sitting at a port. Because if you look at examples of like ports in LA and that, there could be something like a couple 100,000 containers sitting there at a day. So there's huge volumes. Then we've got a lot of, but the bulk of the stuff is people have been trying to blockchain financial back-end stuff. So it's a good example is to stop money laundering and also financing for terrorism. People are now turning to the blockchain. So what they do is, so we know who's receiving the money and who has sent the money to that person. And then you put in a smart contract which will automatically flag certain issues if it's over. Like in Australia, if you send anywhere over $10,000, it gets flagged. You have to give a reason why. So it automatically flags it and that. So they're the sort of stuff I'm working on with the companies, and then I also help with their legal stuff and then business development and those, and bring investors in to those projects.
Beautiful. We've mentioned quite a few times the word blockchain, but how would you explain what blockchain is to a kid?
Well, the most simple form is just think of it as a public ledger. So what it will do is it'll have a address to address, and then it'll tell you where the stuff's been sent, and you can go and view it on the public ledger on the website. So that's the most simplest term that you can explain it.
So, but where is the certainty coming from, and why, after an input has been made in the blockchain, in the chain of blocks, why can't they be modified fundamentally?
Well, when the code has been written, once the stuff's been sent, the ledger cannot be edited. So what you get is, when you start looking at financial crime, you get accountants and that who do colourful things. So they might hide assets in one area to reduce taxes and all this. So if everything's through the blockchain, nothing can be edited. So they can see where your transactions go from point A to point B. They know how much is being sent. So if it's for tax purposes, they know exactly how much has gone to that person, how much you should be taxed in that. So the trust comes in is that once these transactions happen, it cannot be edited, or, as they say, funny games are done on the actual things.
So one of in my opinion, there are fundamentally 3 main use cases. One of them is exchanging value, the other one is storing value, and the third one is tokenization of assets, making them a bit more liquid, potentially fractional, and very interchangeable between people. which one do you think is the sort of the most relevant use case, and if you can potentially share a bit of your insights on each use case?
Well, you also have a fourth one, which is they can also store data on it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
and that's what some of the governments are starting to experiment, is a person will get a token and their medical records, their national social security and all that's stored on there. But the main one is obviously right now that we're seeing is a change of value, and that's like with Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, then there's Uniswap now. So basically people are making money from value increase of as the market's growing, because people are starting to trust it to store value because there's inflation happening around the world. And as we just talked about, money's been printed like crazy, it has no value, so let's put it into Bitcoin. The digital gold, as people are starting to call it now.
So Bitcoin is potentially the king of store of value.
For now
storing
it is.
value. Which are the main players in tokenization of everything, in exchanging value, and in sort of storing the data?
The biggest one which allows data is Ethereum. So, and they're about to do 2.0, which is the speed up their blockchain, because right now their gas fees are really, really high because they've got issues. Bitcoin, as we all know, that was the original proof of concept. Really, it's just a holding and exchange of value. You've got Uniswap's a new one. You've got Ripple. Ripple companies really focused on using that as bank-to-bank and peer-to-peer money transfer, so overseas sort of transactions.
That's the DeFi movement. DeFi being decentralized finance.
Yes. So Ripple was sort of the first one there, and then obviously, as you've read, they've got a few legal issues right now with the SEC. So we'll see how that goes. But as soon as that broke, about 80% of its value got wiped overnight. And then there's small little players which are sort of developing their own code for their own blockchain. But Ethereum's the main one. Nearly every ICO token uses their code to build their tokens over.
Beautiful. So, why do you feel like the DeFi movement is so relevant? What are the main benefits in your opinion?
The main benefits is a lot of them are offering daily or monthly sort of interest at better rates than what is being offered. But when you dig into a lot of the projects, they're starting to fractionalize finance. So you're getting like, say there'll be a project, you can invest in a certain bit, so you don't have to put all your money in like the traditional way as in a full company. And then if the company has one sector which is performing really, really bad, you're sort of stuck in there. You might, so an example would be is say a car company, and they're designing a car with fractionalization. You can just invest in the development of the engine, all the chassis, all the wheels, and that. And that's what's really, I think, people are starting to get interested in the DeFi is it's broken down. They can choose where to put their investment in, how long they can hold it. Some do have a locking time, so you might have to put it away for 6 months and that. And obviously the interest rate is better than what we're getting at 0.2% or something now.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, I feel like it also enables freedom, the freedom to do whatever you want with your money in seconds.
Yep.
Without having to get approval from an entity. I feel like I've seen an interesting photo on social media saying that whenever you make a transaction through your bank, the bank tells you they approved your transaction. Whenever you're making through blockchain, they confirm your transaction, and that's a big difference. We don't understand that fundamentally. Whenever you give your money to a bank,
they can do what they want with it.
Yes. They are doing lots of things with it. They don't just store it in your bank account and you always have access to it. Everybody would go to the bank and try to get it out, then
you've had it.
Yeah.
And we have seen that numerous times, and a good example is the the 2008 GFC as people flock to their banks, trying to pull all the cash out, and you see the huge queues out there. People can't get their money out, or they're limited. Another good example was Cyprus.
Yeah, Cyprus is an amazing reason why people should at least consider DeFi and the value of the blockchain technology as, yeah.
And a great thing about cryptocurrency is you can have your own wallet, which is your own bank account. You have it if you've got a ledger. I'm not selling products here, or a cold storage wallet. You can move that around wherever you want in the world, and that's your bank account. No one can take it off you.
Yeah. Then
and your money's safe.
It's safe to a certain degree, I feel like, because it's something that it's so new, and a lot of people are not educated enough. They're doing a lot of things where they are putting themselves at risk, maybe keeping their cryptocurrency on an exchange, or maybe not securing their seed phrase, or
Yes. I was getting it's safe because you still own your asset.
Yeah.
It's sitting on your wallet, you own your asset. I mean, as you've had experience with banks, you go there and the money's disappeared and they go, sorry, we don't know what's happened to it.
Yeah.
They could go, $20,000 has just disappeared. So with crypto, you know where your assets, it's on your cold storage wallet. But there are other issues as people slowly understand, as you've said, with your seed passwords and possibly getting hacked or forgetting them. As we've seen in the news a few times, some people have got a few hundred million of Bitcoin and they can't access their wallet.
Or maybe sending some money to an address and putting one letter or one character different,
Yes.
The money is lost. That's why it's always good to do a test transaction first, confirm it, and then do the bigger one.
You send one Satoshi, as they say, for a test run.
So, where do you see Bitcoin going in terms of its value, and do you have any particular coins that you like more than others?
Well, in the overall market, as you've seen at the beginning of January, we've got quite a boom now. I think this boom is going to probably go on till the end of the year. So we might see Bitcoin hitting the 6 sort of digit figures. But I do think there's going to be another bust. And then when we go for the third time, that's when we're going to start seeing the banks and institutions and governments really recommending it. And then we're going to go to these all-time highs that people were originally talking about, like Bitcoin getting to $800,000 and all these other sort of things. Ether's an interesting one with their version 2 coming out. Well, they've been saying it for quite a while, but they've apparently started actually testing it now, because that also allows the storage and transfer of data and those sort of things as well. Uniswap's a big one that's starting to take off now. And DeFi, and also the digitizing pictures and all those other sort of things, and NTF, I think it's called.
The NFT movement.
NFT movement.
Yeah. There's somebody that sold a picture fundamentally with 69 million recently.
Yes, and then the Twitter founder sold his first tweet as one for about 2.5 million. But I think the same thing's going to happen there. It's new, it's going to bust, but it'll eventually recover again.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen, even because I was a tennis player. I've seen a tennis player selling an NFT on her arm.
Yeah.
As a tattoo, so somebody could choose what tattoo should do on her arm. That was interesting. I'm not sure. I don't know what was the value at which they sold. So there are a few different use cases, more than what we initially said for is DeFi, there is NFT.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, where is this movement going? What's the future? What's something in the future that you're excited about, a vision that you have about the direction where we're heading?
I'm excited about seeing, obviously, the finance market moving into the 21st century. We're getting fast transactions. We're able to actually own our own money. We don't put it in a bank and basically don't know what happens to it. I'm also excited now that we can basically, nearly at the point that we can travel the world and we have our money with us. We just have to take our Bitcoin, get it converted to the local currency. but I'd love to see, and it will happen at some point, that there'll be a cryptocurrency which basically is used for payments and it gets adopted around the world. So we'll probably eventually have a global cryptocurrency which will allow us to pay for anything and everything around the world. And I think that's very, very exciting.
Definitely. Look, I know that you also offer sort of legal counsel to people that are in the crypto space, potentially launching their coins, guiding the uncertainty regarding the legal framework. I'm wondering if you can please maybe share a few insights of what's the process of maybe doing an ICO and what are the legal issues?
Well, if you're looking at doing an ICO with the legal issues, the first thing is we have to look what country are you going to do it out of. Then once that's decided, we see what that country allows. And then if everything's okay and so we've registered there, then the next step is we will tell you not to take investors on from certain countries which have made anything to do with crypto illegal. So an example is with America. I know some people are going to say, yes, I can still hold Bitcoin and that there. You can, but because the SEC is continuously changing their mind how they view getting investment and raising capital through cryptocurrency, you could get away with it, but they could prosecute you 3 years later. So one thing is we tell people what countries to not take that sort of money from, because you could be in legal hot water a few years later. Then obviously the next step on the legal side is when you are raising capital, you have to do all your AML and KYC processes with any form of investor. And that's really the legal aspects there. If they're trying to get on a exchange, you'll have to get a lawyer to help you model your token web, so it's not a security, it's more of this utility or a stable sort of coin. Because if you start getting to security, then you need all your relevant financial licenses and these sort of things, which are, again, depending what country, can take up to 1 or 2 years to get.
You mentioned a term that I did not understand, AML?
AML and KYC is the Know Your Client. So basically when any company seeks investment, they have to get the person's address where they live, passport and all these other things to go, yes, we've received this money from this person, we got their identity, now we also go and check it on the FBI database and everything to make sure they haven't been blacklisted as a person who's done criminal activity, part of a terrorist group and all this other sort of things. Because if a company does get caught taking capital from these, then obviously there's criminal charges can be laid against them.
Yeah.
And the company can be forced to shut down and all these other sort of things.
Yeah, now I understand. So for me, to a certain degree, it's clear why people are so excited about Bitcoin and its use case of store of value. DeFi, I understand the ability to be in control of your finance.
Yes.
And have the flexibility to deal with it. Why are people so excited about the NFTs? This is something that I'm not yet understanding.
I think right now people are excited because it's something new. As I will predict that it will crash down, but especially I think later on it'll evolve, and when new artists start obviously developing or painting artwork, not developing, that's a tech term there, painting artwork and designing and all that, putting it onto an NFT so there is a ledger of who owns it, will greatly benefit the community. Because as I don't know if you know much about the art world, there's a lot of forgeries and stuff, and when people go through, they need to know the owners, so there has to be a chain of from the painter who's it sold for. So if it's done through an NFT, it's already done there. They just pull up the blockchain and they go, such and such has owned this, they've bought it off the artist. The
potential for forgery is either diminished or it disappears altogether.
Yes. Obviously that's with newer artwork coming out. that is digital, but obviously if you're looking at older artworks, such say from like Rembrandt or Da Vinci and those sort of things, it obviously will be harder to digitize those because they're still on canvas.
Yeah, so they're doing NFT with art. I see that they are also doing it with music, and my understanding is that that's due to the ability to sort of offer or empower the people that produced the music. Mm-hmm. And what other sort of use cases and you've seen with the NFT besides art and music?
I'm starting to see it around patents. They don't call it an NFT, but the same sort of system that they're doing is around patents. So you have a blockchain database of someone who designs a patent, owns it. So if there are obviously conflicts going that someone's designed and that, they can go through it and go, this person owns it, there's been a backlog, like this, say this patent's been sold 20 or 30 times because this company continues to go broke. So it's the same sort of philosophy, as you say, is done there, but it's not called the same thing.
Yeah, now I understand. What would you say to somebody that is considering storing their savings in cryptocurrency and potentially Bitcoin or Ethereum, when they are a bit scared about the volatility? What's volatility? Is it a bug that will disappear in time? Is it a feature that we should be happy about? Why is there so much volatility, and what is it driving?
I think I'd say to someone right now is not to invest all their life savings into cryptocurrency because it's highly volatile. We need to wait for some more sort of stable coins or an asset which obviously brings you interest in, but it's not volatile. Because the reason we're getting a lot of volatility in the markets is people are buying in, we're still working out the uses and all these other sort of things. So, and then obviously the news jumps in, so the prices will skyrocket. Then obviously people make a lot of money and they want to take their profits, so the prices will then crash back down. And it's just a constant sort of cycle like that. But if you have an understanding of how that market works, there's a potential to make a lot of money, or go to a company or a licensed individual that is able to do that on your behalf. But I recommend is the crypto or cryptocurrency world is full of scammers who steal your money, so make sure you do your research and get a company or an individual that's got all their relevant licenses and all that. They're above board, they aren't shady, as they say, so you at least know that you will get your money back when you request it.
Yeah, I feel like it would be good when we will be discovering another use case, the ability to tokenize the trust in a person, because at the moment I feel like there is so many scammers in the crypto world that maybe it's better to just educate yourself and hold your own keys than just go to somebody just because it's just so hard to know who to trust regardless of the licenses. That's my personal opinion.
Still, you're 100% right there. Licenses don't mean anything, but thing is if it's a company with licenses, at least you've got a bit more to stand on if you take it to court.
Yeah, I understand this argument.
And another thing, you got to be careful if you go to someone is to check what fees they charge. Some of them slip unknown fees until you have to pay up.
Definitely.
There's a lot of people who have been trying to break this. So the closest one that we have, which I would say is not quite there yet, is USDT, which is basically a dollar peg value to $1. It's stable, basically you hold that, you've got $1 value, it's going nowhere. But on the other hand, you're not making any money on price fluctuations. You've got projects such as, an example is Centric, who's trying to do it. It's still to be announced if they are going to be the one, but my feeling is that it hasn't been cracked. That one is still to come. A year and a half ago, Ethereum was one that was praised that it's going to come the currency that everyone's going to use, but obviously the network got slow as more and more people use it. The gas fees went up, so it got to a point now as you'd say you want to transfer $5 say to buy a coffee, your transfer fee is $25, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are talking about these gas fees, but I'm not really understanding what is generating these gas fees and where are they fundamentally coming from.
A gas fee is the fee to transfer your cryptocurrency on the block. So that's the fee that goes to the miners. So
miners, okay.
So depending on the demand, the fees go up. And also, so as you've seen now, as we've had the boom time since mid-January, gas fees across for any token transfer has increased. So if you were, say, transferring Bitcoin or Ether back in September last year, it wasn't going anywhere. It would be about $2 or $3, and you could transfer hundreds of thousands of dollars if you want.
Yeah. So fundamentally, gas fees are the reward for miners on Ethereum, and sort of the.
It's also miners for Bitcoin. For any sort of coin, it's just like a transaction fee.
Okay.
So at the height of the current boom, there were some Bitcoin miners who were processing these fees. We're making about $1.2 million a day just from allowing the transfer on the blockchain, which brings up other issues. I don't know if you want to dive in of how much power is being used and everything. So it comes down to an efficiency rate as well.
So what's your game plan for this bull run? When do you think it's going to be ending? Are there any potential indicators, leading indicators that could tell us to get out? And are you personally getting out?
I think we'll be looking at towards after September sometime, this bull run will sort of start ending. So the indicators you will start looking at is when the media really start pushing boom time and that with cryptocurrency. And the old saying is when your barber or your person at your local shop starts talking about investing in cryptocurrency, that's normally the time to get out of it. Myself, I'll probably be staying in there because I also short the market, so I make money if it drops. So it doesn't really worry me either way.
How can somebody make money shorting the market? How do you fundamentally do it?
You have to go. There's certain exchanges which offer future contracts which enable you to short the market. So you basically will take a position betting on the opposite that it'll drop the opposite direction of going up. But to understand that, you need an understanding of market movements and how indicators and that sort of stuff works. So I wouldn't recommend it to someone who's sort of jumping straight into trading.
So I assume you're not day trading, you're more of a buy and hold kind of guy, or you're doing swing trading?
I'm actually building out automated bots to do it on my behalf.
Okay.
So I don't have to.
So this is for people that are thinking to do day trading, to just listen to this and not do day trading, because they don't realize that they compete with bots, with high frequency trading, and people that have been doing this for tens of years. And fundamentally, you're better off buying and holding if you're not at a more educated level.
Or you go to a bank or an institution which actually specializes in this sort of stuff.
Yeah, beautiful. So you're not going out. It's probably ending in September. One indicator that I personally look at, and I feel like it has a high degree of accuracy, is the stock to flow ratio.
Yes.
which is fundamentally saying that there is a high chance that after Bitcoin gets to 84,000, I think, that's the moment where the bear market will probably be starting. But what is generating this bull and bear market movements?
Well, what we're seeing today is we're starting to see some of the institutions dip their feet in. So, as everyone knows, a good example is Musk bought $2 billion. So that was basically what started this bull run off. Obviously, the news came out 2 months after the fact, but if you look back, the price started skyrocketing up the time he started buying. So the bull run happens on supply and demand. So when there's not enough supply, the prices are going to skyrocket. And that's basically what we've seen happen.
Yeah, so my current understanding is that everything is driven by supply and demand, property, art, everything.
Yes.
And probably the reason why Bitcoin is performing better than any other assets, if you think long term, not short term, is because every 4 years it has a supply shock through the fact that the incentive for miners is decreasing, and to a certain degree it is finite. Real estate is scarce but is not finite. Art is scarce but is not finite. So that's one of the reasons why in the last 12 years I think it has a 200% return per year, compounded.
Yes.
Or over 200%.
And also another thing with cryptocurrency, you have to be wary, it's unregulated yet. So you get some people at the start who have made hundreds of millions of dollars. They themselves can start a bull run off. We've just got to go to the outside lane.
This is what a lot of Bitcoin millionaires, I guess, will be buying at the end of this bull market.
Yes, they'll be going for the favorite car for the Bitcoin millionaires, a Lamborghini.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They just came out an interview with a billionaire or billionaires that bought the 69 million NFT. Can't wait to watch it. It's on Valuetainment. I'm just wondering what's the perspective. Why did they pay so much for something that, in my opinion, does not have that much value? But they are probably the ones that are right. I'm probably not educated enough.
Well, the thing is they've paid so much for it, they're probably looking at holding it over the long term.
Yeah.
I think you're going to probably see a bust in that market, and then it'll recover as people start to understand it more. So whoever spent that 69 million, as you said, is probably looking at holding it for at least 5 to 10 years sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's also the fundamentally it's similar with volatility. I feel like depending on your position, volatility is either good or bad. If you're short, volatility to the upside is not good for you. If you're long, volatility to the in both directions is good for you because it can go up, it can go down. So if you don't need to exit in moments where it's down,
and that's the age-old question. If you do short-term trading, is you're always trying to aim for that top. You're never going to get it right, but that's what most people aim for. You get your ups and downs. You try and perfectly time it.
Yeah, if you look at the market, it went from, I don't know what was Bitcoin, 3,000, and now it's at 60.
Yeah.
If I would have bought at 3 and sold at 60, that would have been such an amazing return. But no, almost nobody bought at 3,000.
Well, I did. I just kicked myself that I didn't buy enough. I only had a little bit left in that time, and then I just watched it go. Oh man.
I remember myself being on the fence when it was 5K. Should I buy it? Maybe it goes back to 3K. Maybe I wait. So, as a friend of mine is saying, people are usually overpaying for things. They buy them when they're expensive, not when they're cheap.
Yes.
A lot of people are getting into crypto now when Bitcoin is 50, 60K.
Yes.
And they didn't buy it when it was 3,000, 5,000. And
I still remember the days here with a few friends. We were debating whether to buy Bitcoin at $30 because there was no application, not spoken about. It was a gamble.
Yeah.
And then obviously we kick ourselves now that we didn't hover up as many as we could get our hands on at that time.
So when did you get into the market?
I started following it in 2010, but I didn't really get into it until about 2012, 2013.
Oh, but that's an amazing entry point.
Yes.
So can you share some numbers with us? Where did you enter, and maybe how many figures are in your sort of crypto net worth?
It's not a lot, unfortunately, because I only bought a little bit because I was very back then risk tolerance, and I went $30, I'll buy maybe $1,000 worth and go, because no one heard of it. You'd walk around and people go, what's Bitcoin? And that was the days you'd type it into Google and there might only be 3 websites that talked about it.
Yeah, but fundamentally for sure you're top I don't know, 5% Bitcoin holders. Because I look at charts and usually there are a lot of people that don't own much.
Now you don't, it's very hard to get in.
Yeah. So what would you recommend somebody that is looking to get into the market?
I think if they're looking now to get into the market, if they've got a gambling side, you might get another run up to maybe 90 to 100,000 this year. So you've still got a plate of about 30,000, but I wouldn't be, if you're a bit less risk prone, and I'd be waiting for it to collapse again and get in there once it's done its drop. And don't consider this as financial advice.
Definitely, that's a very relevant saying in Australia, just because left or right here.
Right through.
Just because everybody's
it's just an opinion of 2 guys driving in a car right now.
Yeah, and a lot of people are leveraging litigation for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So how can somebody do it in a smart way, get into the market from a legal standpoint? Is it better to get it to go on,
well, if you want
a personal name, or maybe as a company?
Well, that question comes down to how much you're going to trade, volume, and how long you're going to hold that cryptocurrency to whether you hold it in your personal name or you put it into a company. So an example is if you're holding anything under 6 months, you have a huge amount of capital gains tax on it. It's about 50%. So you would want to put it into a company. But if you're planning to hold it long term, over a year in your own name, you're sort of paying it at the normal sort of tax rates. So it really comes down to your trading styles and everything and how professional you are.
Yeah, I understand. It's just it's a perspective, but fundamentally from a taxation point of view, it's worthwhile investigating coming in as a company, due to sort of the tax rate that you will have to pay. At least that's what I'm personally doing.
Yes, so say if you're doing high frequency trading, say a week your turnovers are, let's go, $1 million, you're making yourself, say, 100,000 off that a week.
Yeah.
You're in a company, you'll be only paying your standard business tax rate. Then if the money gets dispersed, say, to you, then it comes a wage. There are other ways to pay zero tax, but I'm not going to be diving into them on the recording.
Maybe next one. Let's close the cameras.
Yeah.
William, look, I really appreciate your time. I feel like you shared some valuable insights with us. And how can people reach you?
Just through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, beautiful. Perfect. Thank you again, and I really appreciate your time.